Now looking ahead to week 3 of games, we have actually a few conference matchups, one of which is North Texas and Rice.
I'll tell you, this is a big game for both teams because both coming off very tough losses. But I think for North Texas, this is a huge game because of what's to come as far as their schedule is concerned. North Texas has got to clean things up. Think about it. They led SMU in that football game late in the game, let it get away. They've got to find a way to get that taste out of their mouth and go on. I think it's a very big game for both teams.
Next, we have Charlotte's first conference game against Middle Tennessee. Charlotte's going into this game 2-0, like I said earlier, for the 3rd year in a row.
Well, Middle Tennessee, it's tough playing there. That's a good stadium. The people get behind it, and we're going to see exactly what Charlotte is made out of this year. But I think Middle Tennessee, we haven't talked a lot about them. This is a team that Rick Stockstill does a great job coaching. They're going to be ready to play. It's a conference game. The energy is going to be different in practice. So I think Charlotte's going to have their hands full in this game.
Then Louisiana Tech goes on the road yet again to play Kansas State. And Kansas State has not allowed a touchdown this season, but the Louisiana Tech offense has been operating at quite a high level.
I'll tell you, playing in Manhattan is difficult. I've been there for a lot of games. It's a tough place to play. But to me, if you're Louisiana Tech, you showed that you have the offensive firepower. Now, the professor, Bill Snyder, head coach of Kansas State, his defense is always tough. They're going to be ready. But to me, Louisiana Tech's got to keep Kenneth Dixon going. Had 168 yards rushing last week. You've got to get him some yards somehow, because if not, they're just going to tee off on Driscoll, the quarterback. So I think the key is Dixon getting some type of run game going. That'll open things up. Louisiana Tech's got the wide receivers to do it. There's no question. I think this is a winnable game for Louisiana Tech because there are teams that have gone into Manhattan at the Snyder Family Center and they've won. This is a winnable game.
Then Louisiana Tech's opponent from last weekend, WKU, travels to play Indiana. They've already beaten an SEC team, so this weekend they could possibly post up a win against a Big Ten team.
That would be great because they've already beat Vanderbilt, and I think Western Kentucky feeling pretty good about themselves right now. Indiana, another beatable team. This would be quite a feather in Western Kentucky's cap, and it'll give them a lot of confidence going into the rest of the conference season. But again, the key, keep Brandon Dowdy upright, keep running the football. They lost Allen, it looks like, for the season. They're fine running back. That's going to hurt. Somebody's got to step up, but to me, keep Dowdy standing up and not get hit and knocked around.
Old Dominion hosts NC State this weekend, and both teams are 2-0. It's bound to be a good game, and it'll be a bigger test for running back Ray Lowry than he's probably had.
I think so too, because this is a different caliber team. North Carolina State, they're not one of the great teams in the ACC, but they're a competitive team in the ACC. You can't let whatever's across their jersey, if you're Old Dominion, bother you. You got to go out there and just play your type of football. I think they've got to throw the ball a little better than they did this past weekend. Fewest pass completions in about 3 years, I think, this last week. They've got to throw the ball a lot better. I think Bobby Wilder's going to have his team all excited and ready to go, because when I do a game with ODU, Bobby Wilder gets me excited to do a game. I can't imagine what he's going to be doing in the locker room.
And lastly, this week is a big game for Southern Miss, like we talked about. It's their first road game as they travel to play Texas State.
They've got to take care of business here. I mean, you have Coach Francione at Texas State. He's an outstanding football coach. I mean, think about what he did at Texas A&M and at Alabama. This is a good football team. You can't go in there and think, Texas State, I got to go to San Marcos, big deal. No, you got to take this seriously. And I think they're going to, because I think Coach Monken at Southern Miss, he respects Dennis Francione an awful lot. But a chance to go 2-1 for a team that hasn't won a lot the last 3 years, this is a big game. I think they've got to go in, take care of business. It's a business trip for them, and I think they got to look at it that way.
Now here's a look at the entire schedule for Week 3 of Conference USA football. Where are you headed to this week, Ron?
I will be in Huntington, West Virginia. Can't wait. Get to go to Fat Patty's as my eating trend continues as they take on Norfolk State. Norfolk State is not a good football team. I'll be very honest with you. All due respect to those guys. But for Marshall, this is a game. You can't do the penalties you had last week that killed you. You can't have the turnovers. And I think Doc Holliday's going to have these guys all fired up. It doesn't matter they're playing Norfolk State. They got to clean up what they do. If not, it could be a long season, but I think they're going to get those mistakes cleared up.